Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hey, it's Bobby Bones with some exciting news. Open booking is here for the Top Shelf Country Cruise, setting sail February 2026 aboard the luxurious Celebrity Reflection. Spots are filling up fast, so book your stateroom today or sign up to become a lineup insider to receive the final lineup 48 hours prior to the public. Don't miss your chance to make February 2026 unforgettable. Visit TopShelfCountryCruise.com. That's TopShelfCountryCruise.com.
Right, but with the expansion, every one of the diamonds you surround gives you another pick from the center pile. You get an extra pick.
It just sounds super confusing and lame. I don't think
it's not confusing and lame. It's a fun game that's fun.
Really?
Yes.
Well, if it isn't Eli and Heath.
Just as we expected.
Hey Noah. Hey Cecil. You your voice sounds weird. And what are you doing there? You doing a little science fair?
Also, why are your eyes so wide?
Yes. Oh, great question. Also,
don't pretend like you don't know.
Yeah. What he said.
No. What?
This week's episode. It's about the Hubble Space Telescope, which is awesome, by the way. Awesome.
Thank you.
So
yes.
Noah and I got here early to preempt whatever you guys were planning.
we weren't like planning anything. We're just.
Oh, sure you weren't, Heath. Well, too bad. We beat you to it. Oh, what's this? An exhibit on eugenics? Just another thing that science got wrong? Am I right? Am I right?
Right? Or maybe you prefer this. Velcro. Because it's all we've ever gotten out of NASA is Velcro, isn't it? You fucking Luddites.
Guys, you got it all wrong. Heath and I love science.
You do?
Yeah. Without science, we wouldn't have VR porn. Just top of my head.
Yep, VR porn.
So you're not going to make fun of Noah's cool essay?
I mean,
what?
Have they ever shot any porn on the Hubble telescope?
No.
Okay, well then, yeah, we're going to make fun of it a lot.
Right? Anyway, see you guys in a bit.
Oh, God.
Well, statistically speaking, there's got to be some kinky shit going on in the ultra deep field image.
Yes, what he said.
Think about it.
Hello, and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Tom, and I'll be peering more intently at Uranus than anyone should be comfortable with, but I'm going to need some friends to poke around the rings with me. So I'm joined tonight by two men who aren't allowed by law to own telescopes, binoculars, or drones, Heath and Noah.
Yeah, it turns out you waste enough emergency room time getting those things removed. They put you on a list. I didn't even know that.
Also, SpaceX is better than NASA. What? I said it. Had to be said. Yeah. Talk to my expert on the inside. She said it's not even close. SpaceX wins.
Don't listen to him.
Mm-hmm. One of them's been to the moon.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Stanley Kubrick. And also joining us tonight, one man who needs as much magnification as he can get, and one whose gas clouds are famous the world over, Cecil and Eli.
My nickname's 10X. It's not what you think, ladies. It's not what you think.
Okay, fine. It's true. Technically, one of my farts started coronavirus, but he's the one who made bat soup with it. Heath is the one.
All right, guys. Some people who listen to our show, well, they're patrons, and some are not. I'm not saying that if you're not a patron that you're stealing, because that's not technically true, but it's also very nearly true. So, our patrons, guys, these are the reasons that Eli's baby won't starve to death. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're not a patron, you hate Eli's baby.
Yeah,
you do.
So
I think that's
pause and think about what kind of person that makes you. And while you're doing that, Stick around for the end of the show. If you'd like to join the ranks of those people who don't have babies, we will tell you how to join. And with that out of the way, tell us, Cecil, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about
I think you
today?
set up a dangerous Sophie's Choice thing, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, get excited, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about my fourth favorite telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope.
Nerd.
All right. And Noah, you've been floating this topic for a while. Are you ready to keep us entertained and enthralled by what I'm going to guess will be the history of polished glass magnification?
I am always willing to keep you enthralled by polishing, Tom. You just say the word.
All right, Noah, what is the Hubble telescope?
All right, so the Hubble Space Telescope, also known as the HST, the Hubble or Hubs, is the world's most famous telescope. Probably.
Hubs is so friendly. I like
Right?
that.
Yeah,
one.
no, we're on a first syllable basis.
Swipe up to join the citation needed OnlyFans, and we'll rate your telescope.
Stop trying to make your OnlyFans happen. It's not going to happen. Relax with that.
Never!
All right, so the Hubble is a space telescope that was launched into low Earth orbit back in 1990 and has become such good publicity for astronomy that we have since forgiven them for discovering enormous vortices of darkness that can rip apart stars and swallow whole galaxies, and failing to think of a cooler name for them than black hole.
Fun fact about black holes, they're so boring, they can stretch a conversation out to nearly infinity.
Oh, okay.
All right, I suppose if you tried hard enough, you can drag this story out so far that it starts in the 1600s, can't you, Noah?
I'm glad you asked,
Literally,
Tom.
yes.
Yes, the telescope was first invented in 1608. And while we have developed a bunch of different kinds of telescopes since then, the basic design of the optical telescope, and therefore the basic design of the Hubble, hasn't changed all that much. The earliest telescopes used curved lenses to focus light, and today's high-end telescopes use curved mirrors instead, but the concept is basically the same. You're basically just using a really big piece of glass to see a really small point of light.
I swear to God, if the Etruscans were the first one to do this, I'm fucking leaving. I'm out of here.
They watched the stars a lot.
They did.
They didn't have
Yeah.
telescopes, though. No. Now, I tried. I'm always trying,
sure
Tom. When you're the host, I'm always trying to figure out some way to tie it in, but no. Now, within a year of the first patent application on a telescope, Galileo was using one to look at the stars and planets and shit, and it turned out that stuff was way cooler than anybody thought back then, or than Heath, Eli, and Tom think now.
Interesting.
Nope, not yet. Hasn't hit that button.
Space isn't real. Whatever.
The race to build a better telescope began, and it's been ongoing now for about 400 years. Of course, through most of that history, better meant bigger. So early on, better just meant, lens isn't lumpy, but once they figured out the basics of glass grinding techniques, it was just a matter of how big a mirror you could reasonably build without breaking.
Yeah, we do the same thing with businesses in the national economy these days. And after exhaustive research, we found that we haven't actually found an upper limit for it. That's crazy.
No,
Yeah.
strangely enough.
Just everyone's shitty uncle arguing that it's not unreasonable for one guy to have a 1 billion foot wide mirror. I might need a mirror that big one day.
All right, so this leads to the obvious question of why the fuck anybody would want to put a telescope in space, right? Like, I mean, it's not like that's a super convenient place to have it in terms of fiddling with the focus. And for it to be possible to launch, it has to be pretty modest in size compared to cutting-edge telescopes. Like the largest optical telescopes have lenses that are almost as wide as the Hubble is long. And the largest single aperture telescope ever, that big fucker in Puerto Rico, is 1,000 feet across.
Okay, I'm sure that's doing good stuff. Just feels like Puerto Rico should focus on earthy stuff at this particular moment. That's just me.
In their defense, they thought we had their back.
Yeah.
So one reason you want a telescope in space is because Earth spins.
Allegedly.
No, it just does. So when you're taking a picture with a ground-based telescope, it's kind of like taking a picture out of the window of your car while you're driving along. Like when you're photographing shit that's a gazillion miles away, the ability to maintain an exposure longer than a third of the Earth's rotation is kind of critical.
And when I expose myself a third of the time, it's court hearing this and school zone that. And
It's all about which third of yourself you're exposing, bro. But so that's only part of it, though. The other big thing is atmospheric. Yes, we're talking about clouds. They suck when you're trying to look at the stars. But even if you build your telescope in a place with very little cloud cover, as astronomers tend to do, you still have to deal with the distortions from the atmosphere itself. All the nitrogen and oxygen between your lens and the star jostles the light around a bit before we get it. That's why stars appear to twinkle when observed from the Earth. And sure, we can use computers to correct out a lot of that distortion, but the best option is just to not have atmosphere between you and the thing you want to look at.
Yeah, and business has been working on that too. Pesky atmosphere. Get out of here. We'll get rid of it.
Well, I, for one, think astronomers should stop correcting distortion. It hurts red dwarf celestial body image.
I should note, though, that the idea of putting telescopes in space dates back nearly 100 years at this point. There was a book in 1923 that mentioned it, but the history of the Hubble itself really starts in 1946 with the publication of Lyman Spitzer's paper, Astronomical Advantages of an Extraterrestrial Observatory, where he lays out the advantages that we just discussed, plus some other sciencey stuff I left out for Eli's sake about how space telescopes could observe infrared and ultraviolet light that our atmosphere absorbs almost entirely.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, the different colors from a bajillion light years away, that's super useful. We all know that. That's amazing. But
Okay.
we need to start selling NASA better. Like, talk about spying on space Muslims or something, like Space Force stuff. Just PR, get it going.
Okay, so kind of unrelated, but Lyman Spitzer, I should note, he was a member of Skull and Bones.
Interesting.
Ponzi scheme.
Killed Kennedy.
Crisis actor.
Newtown was a hoax. What?
Okay.
God.
There we go. Cancel the show.
Member of Skull and Bones, he invented something called the Stellarator Plasma device. He was the first person to climb Mount Thor.
There's a Mount Thor?
Yes, largest vertical drop in the world. And also he dedicated his career to the construction of space telescopes. So, like, if legacy is entirely determined by how much cool sounding shit is in your one sentence bio, I'm pretty sure Lyman Spitzer won history.
A Lyman Spitzer is rum, citrus, club soda with a splash of simple syrup stirred with your dick. That's what it is.
Yeah, and to actually order that drink, all I have to do is belly up to the bar and just say, me too.
Yeah.
So in 1962, a report by the National Academy of Sciences recommended the U.S. government develop a space telescope. And Tucker Carlson wasn't there to scream socialism back then, so they said yes. In 1965, Spitzer was appointed the head of the committee tasked with defining the scientific objectives of that telescope.
Yeah, to be fair, this is because it was 1962, and someone just told the guys with checkbooks that they'd be able to use the telescope to see Russia from their house.
Well, that's true, yeah, actually. Now, at that point, space-based astronomy wasn't entirely unheard of. Basically, as soon as we had rockets, we had nerds strapping scientific instruments to them. So as far back as 1946, we were using rocketry to, measure the ultraviolet spectrum of the sun and stuff like that. In 1962, both the U.S. and the U.K. launched solar observatories, but it wasn't until 1968 that NASA started really shoring up plans for a space-based reflecting telescope. Now, the original plans then called for a telescope with a mere 3 meters in diameter, just shy of 10 feet, which they hoped to launch in 1979. And with typical astrophysics flair for nomenclature, they called it the Large Space Telescope, or
Jesus.
LST.
Come on, again, better branding, guys. That's the intergalactic inverted photon rifle. There you go. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that they should have sent a poet.
So, they designed this guy to sit in low Earth orbit, which meant that it could be worked on. You could theoretically launch a crew up to do maintenance on it and shit. And while that was built as a way of extending its life, it was really more about offering up another justification for those sweet ass space shuttles they wanted to build.
Yeah, there's no reason to replace the garage door opener for just keeping the same car. It's stupid.
Right, yeah, exactly. Right. That's NASA in a nutshell right there. So NASA gets all excited and they create 2 committees, one to plan the actual engineering of their space telescope and another to decide the scientific goals of the mission. And the whole time...
Okay, wait, should they establish one and then the other? These don't seem like
These are rocket
simultaneous
scientists, Tom. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole time Congress is sitting back going, why the fuck would you put a telescope in space? Who would be there to look in the little eyepiece, right? So by 1974, when NASA stubbornly refused to take half of a space telescope in compromise, Congress pulls the funds altogether.
Congress did a thing. Talk about science fiction, am I right?
Yeah, right.
But to be fair, what Congress did was to refuse to do the thing. So
actually.
that's the only gold star on Congress's report card.
For the last 70
Tell
years.
you what,
yeah.
you can make a medium space telescope. Medium. There you go.
So
Grande.
astronomers lost their shit over the loss of funding. And I know you're probably imagining astronomers losing their shit and thinking, yeah, I'm not sure I'm super threatened now. But we're talking about people who heard about like repeatedly observing the same points of light and measuring minute changes in their relative position over years and devoted their lives to it. Right? Like you'd be hard pressed to find a more persistent group of humans. So after a ton of very awkward Ida shoe meetings between senators and astronomers, Congress eventually agreed in 1978 to approve $36 million for their project with the aim of launching it in 1983.
Oh, Jesus Christ, fine. I'll give you the money. Can you please seriously take a step back? You've been awkwardly breathing in my personal space for 4 years. Ugh.
Of course, they did not hit that 1983 scheduled launch date, but one very important thing in the telescope's history did happen in that year. In honor of Lyman Spitzer, who'd spent almost 4 decades of his life dedicated to the construction of a space telescope, they renamed it after Edwin Hubble. And look, I mean, I get Spitzer was alive, and it would have been weird to name it after an alive guy, and I get that they did name a space telescope after Spitzer pretty much like the minute that he died, and I get that Edwin Hubble is fine, but it sucks for Lyman that the one space telescope that people less nerdy than me have heard of is named after some other motherfucker.
Which is exactly why we should start the Eli Bosnick Scholarship for people who shot themselves to death now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. Just get it going. Thank you.
So anyway, along the way, while they're putting the sucker together, they pushed the launch date back to October of 1986. Which is looking super reasonable. Everything's coming along great to hit that launch date until January of that year when, as you'll recall, 7 people blew the fuck up on their way to space. Because Tom is fine with space topics when people explode in them.
Yeah.
Okay, but to be clear, it's because of what the human drama of their blown out O-rings represented to me.
It's a metaphor, yeah.
So,
O-ring jokes.
So needless to say, that slowed down NASA's launch schedule by quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel like that made for some awkward check-ins, right? Hey, Dave, right?
Congressman Northam, what can I do for you?
Yeah, just wanted to check in and see how the space telescope project is going.
Well, it's going fine, sir.
Great. You dot all your I's, cross all your T's.
Yes,
Really
yes, sir.
get down to
Yes,
it.
sir. As said in my report, we have no reason to expect any complications at all with the Hubble project, sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you said last time. But then, right after you said that, you blew up a kindergarten teacher on national television, didn't you?
That's our bad.
So, yeah, well, it is your bad. And that's why I'm saying all this. Just, double check everything, really, especially the external fuel tanks, just to be sure.
Sir, the Hubble doesn't have any external fuel tanks, so we're good. We're good.
Oh, good then. That's probably for the best. Because, last time you had those, you
blew up a kindergarten teacher on national TV. We know, sir.
Yep.
You'll never let us forget.
Great. Fantastic.
You could just drop it sometime.
Oh, God. So mean. That's really what happened, too. So after the Challenger explosion, the U.S. space program came to a grinding halt, and the Hubble Space Telescope, which was essentially built and ready to go at that point, had to be put in cold storage, which isn't just a matter of tossing a tarp over it. Okay, this is a precision instrument going to fucking space. So it has to be kept in a clean room with no dust. It has to be powered up and purged with nitrogen the whole time. That costs about $6 million a month. And they did it for 4 fucking years.
Holy shit. Damn. You could have made 48 Lee Majors for that. Gosh, that's amazing. $6 million man. That's like a whole space force. Yep. It's a whole space force.
This whole part of the operation was run by America's White Suburban Dad Coalition. Like, they honed their skills obsessively winterizing their lawn equipment for generations.
Actually, yes, exactly.
Our time.
All right, so the original estimated price tag of this thing was about $400 million. By the time they launched it in 1990, the costs were more like $4.7 billion.
Damn.
But in April of 1990, the finished product, 7 years late and an order of magnitude over budget, was loaded aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery and sent into low Earth orbit. With the nation still stinging from the Challenger disaster, the amazing discoveries it was poised to make were exactly the kind of PR boost NASA needed, just as long as it wasn't a broke-ass piece of shit in ways they didn't discover until it was floating 353 miles above the Earth's surface.
Okay. All right. I admit I'm not an expert on telescopes, science, numbers, but that last line sounded foreshadowing.
Super foreshadowing.
So let's assume that
Super foreshadowing.
It was good.
Yeah, I'm going to guess Noah here wants to pause, so let's take a break for a little apropos of nothing.
All right, I want to get through this budget meeting before 3. I got a tea time. Let's go. Of course, sir. Pretty straightforward. So let's see here. We need $700 billion for the ongoing wars and such. Obviously, right? Okay, give that a stamp. Good. Fine. We have the new invisible submarine we're working on. That's going to cost $20 billion. Sure thing. Does it work though? No. Doesn't matter. Approved. Is that it? What else you got? A couple more items. Okay. Super soldier serum. That's going to be $10 billion. And $40 billion for drones. 40 billion for drones. Okay, sounds reasonable. And what about that jet that turns into a robot from that movie? Yeah, the Transformers Initiative. Let's say 130 billion? Worth every penny. Love it.
Sir, I did have one request. I don't know if you
let the nerd in.
Oh, I work here. I'm the head of NASA.
The what? I've never heard of that. I think you just walked past the guards. I think he's just making up $4.5 billion for new security, right? Yeah, you know what? Sounds good. Anyway, what do you want, nerd? Spit it out. Let's go.
I thought maybe we could, I don't know, fund some space stuff. I don't know.
Space stuff? What the hell for? Planets moving someplace you don't suspect?
Well, astronomy funding has brought us innovations in charging technology, new computer languages, GPS, magnetic imaging, clean rooms. We wound up doing a whole bunch of other.
Maybe we should feed the poor first? Yeah. Have you heard of them? They're called the poor. The poor.
I mean, you don't have to choose between knowing true things about the universe and helping people. One actually actively contributes to the other one. So it's not
blah, 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 blah. Look, I get it. You want to fuck a moon rock or whatever. But unless you can come up with some practical reasons for this funding, we're not going to be able to help you or BASA.
Satellite's going to be able to see Russia if we get it.
You could have $850 billion for that one.
Cool.
Nerd.
Well, that went precisely the way that I thought it would.
Yeah,
okay,
me too.
Noah, when we left you, everything was going to be okay unless it wasn't.
Opposite.
So I guess where does that leave us now?
Okay, so yeah, here's NASA. Again, we're 4 years off this terrible disaster that happened while all the kids in the nation were watching, that had really come to define the space program to a lot of people. So like in the year before the Challenger blew up, there had been 9 shuttle launches. In the 4 years plus between that and the launch of the Hubble, there had also been 9 shuttle launches. Right? We hadn't exactly regained our confidence in NASA. And leading up to the launch, there were constantly playing the Hubble the fuck up. So it not working was basically the worst thing that could have happened, short of it falling out of space and landing on 6 astronauts and a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, little did we know that if we wanted Americans not to care about it, we should have told them the Challenger exploded in a mass shooting.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there you go. But despite all their high hopes for basic competency, within a couple of weeks of the launch, it was clear that there were serious problems with the optical system. Now, the Wikipedia article gives the description of the problem with the images that were being returned. Quote, images of point sources spread out over a radius of more than 1 arc second instead of having a point spread function, PSD, concentrated within a circle 0.1 arc seconds, 458 nrad, in diameter, as had been specified in the design criterion. End quote.
Idiots. Stupid.
Right, yeah, right. No, that's we just spent $5.5 billion on a telescope that doesn't work version of the picture looks all fucked up. Right.
All the American people are wondering if you can translate that into do-wodgers and thingamabobs for them.
Right.
It would really help.
Yeah. So basically, if you try to take a picture of God, he changes math and fucks up your thing. There. America gets it.
Yeah.
You got it? That's what happened.
If that same fucking problem happened now, we would just sit there for 3 hours trying to fix it with different filters. Be like, okay. So I think I got it now, guys. Saturn appears to have 9 rings and doggy ears. Okay, perfect. Science is fun. Space Force.
Yeah, right. We're getting closer and closer. Okay, so NASA puts their best people on this, which seems like a step you take before you launched it, but hindsight and all that, I guess. And they determined that the mirror is the wrong shape, which is odd because reflecting telescope is just, mirror shape. That's like pretty much that's the whole thing. It's a properly shaped mirror. And it's not like you can just fly your space shuttle back up there and buff out the wrinkles. The main telescope part of the telescope was fundamentally fucked up.
Look, my dick can't get any hotter than room temperature butter, but my balls are fine. They're fine.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
It was finally appropriate for you to announce that. Cool. Done that a lot of times.
I have a t-shirt with that on it. I've announced that a long time ago. Thank you very much.
All right, so at this point, the Hubble telescope is a fucking punchline. Right, the entire country is pointing at NASA and going, "You assholes with your primary telescope 2,200 nanometers too flat around the rim and your resultant spherical aberrations. I'd have made such a better space telescope." But to be fair, the telescope isn't just the mirror, right? It had a bunch of other shit on it that still functioned just fine. And because the problem was consistent, to some degree, astronomers could subtract it out. It wasn't perfect, but it was still doing good science. All that being said, $4.7 billion is more than you want to spend for kind of still works, though.
We're going to pay $22 billion for a border wall. I mean, we're fine with ineffectiveness if it's racist enough. They should just, have just said we're using it to keep an eye on MS-13. Boom, funded. No problem.
Yeah,
there you go.
Why work that hard? Just slap a Confederate flag on that bad boy. They'll give you the money to make 3.
Call it the General Lee. Yeah.
They're jumping rockets over cannons.
So the article on Wikipedia goes into detail here about exactly like how the error got introduced. And I'm not going to pretend that I understand any of that. But the key is that the error came from an error in measurement, but it was a damn precise error.
Yeah, measure twice, cut funding for NASA once. Everybody knows that.
Right. Unfortunately, they didn't have your dad there to help him out. But it was still built by these very exacting specifications. It was just built to the wrong exacting specifications. But that's why the problem was ultimately fixable, right? So they couldn't replace the mirror once the thing was in space, and it would have been dangerous and stupid expensive to try to bring it back to Earth and then launch it again. But what they could do was build a lens that had the same problem as the mirror, but in reverse. So that's what they did.
The best way to fix the mirror was to unbreak a different mirror opposite wise. Are we sure NASA wasn't hiring a stoned nephew to do this?
We are not at all sure of that. No. Of course, it's not like you can just order like an off-the-shelf Hubble lens, and it's not like you can just swing by the space telescope next time you're in space. So pretty much right away, they know that they're not going to get a chance to fix this fucker until 1993. So for 3 years, it's just this standing joke about NASA's incompetence while they bust ass trying to fix it.
And all the other space programs are just knocking their books out of their hands.
Kind of were, yeah. So in December of 93, the Space Shuttle Endeavour takes 7 astronauts to the telescope along with the Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, or COSTAR. They're so much better at acronyms than names. And over a 10-day period, they install this fix and tweak a half dozen other problems with the satellite and declare the mission a complete success.
The original NASA scientists just hanging out, watching the new team fix it. Yeah, I would have done this myself, but crazy busy week. That a wrench you working with there? I got some of those. Love socket. I use a wrench.
I use wrenches too.
Socket. What gauge?
Gauge.
When I hang a picture in my house, I put 30 holes in the wall before that fucking thing is straight and level. Bare minimum. Bare fucking minimum. if I'm in there, if somebody handed me a goddamn space mirror whose tolerance for errors are measured in nanobots or whatever, there's literally no way. There's fucking no way I would just like, I'd be that guy who just drops it and helplessly watches it float off into space. It's like, guys, fuck.
Take a picture of it. I think.
All right, so since that first servicing mission, the Hubble has returned some of the most iconic images in the history of science. So one immediately recognizable image is a 5 light-year tendril of cosmic dust at the heart of the Eagle Nebula, dubbed the Pillars of Creation.
Amazing.
There's the edge-on view of the Sombrero Galaxy, the vermilion appendages of the Butterfly Galaxy, the diaphanous curtains of stellar nurseries, all instantly recognizable as Hubble images.
Now, there's a reason to get an Oculus, guys, right there.
Fuck yeah.
That's the reason.
Fuck a nebulous. Absolutely. But most importantly, Eli doesn't have to tie his shoes with laces. $10 billion. Well spent.
No. $10 billion. We got some really good screensavers.
Okay.
We really did.
Okay.
We really did.
Plus, we spent some more money over the last 10 years on top of that.
But I'd say the single most profound image, if not the most important, ever captured by the Hubble or by anyone is the Hubble Ultra Deep Field image. Right? This is the one where they just focused on a tiny point of darkness in the middle of the sky over a 3.5-month period in late 2003. The image looks back approximately 13 billion years and contains an estimated 10,000 galaxies. It is the single most humbling image a puny fucker like you or I could possibly look at.
Some guy Googles it and he's just like, whatever, my kid could paint that. Splotch, 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 boo.
I should note, though, that not everybody in the world of astronomy is convinced that the Hubble was worth the investment. I mean, sure, it captured some amazing pictures and it did really good science. According to the wiki, over 15,000 papers based on Hubble data have been published in peer-reviewed journals. That being said, it's crazy fucking expensive. Right, it cost $4.7 billion to build, store, and launch, but maintaining it has cost even more. Over the first 20 years of operation, the cost of keeping the lights on in this thing and the lens defrosted was $5.3 billion. So the comparison offered in the wiki is the William Herschel telescope. It's a ground-based telescope that's cited in about 1/15 as many papers as the Hubble Space Telescope and cost about 1% as much to maintain.
You know, the craziest thing about all those Hubble papers is that somehow the readership is less than the total number of space telescopes we have.
I like that defrosting matters too. I'm picturing like an astronaut being like, ugh, just getting back out of it, having to go scrape it with the little thing.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Honey, can you warm up my space telescope? I got to go to work in an hour.
We got to get one of those keyless ones so I can do it from the shower.
Just some guy standing there.
You got to push the front window button and crack the window a little bit. Your old friend always knows how to do it, but you can't figure it out.
How can you not figure that out?
Of course, what goes up must come down are a series of words that aren't true, especially when you're talking about space shit, but people say them together like that anyway, and they're apropos now. That we're talking about the Hubble. If it's not boosted into a higher orbit, it would fall back to Earth sometime between 2028 and 2040. Now, the original plan was that we'd eventually decommission it and then send a space shuttle out there to pick it up, and then we'd hang it in the Smithsonian or something. But since we don't actually have space shuttles anymore, and
allegedly,
since landing one with a space telescope in it would have been stupid, dangerous to begin with, we had to scrap that plan. It's not like we have some way of boosting it all like worked out or anything, though. But don't worry. I mean, how long could it possibly be until 2028? All right. And in case you're curious, yes, large chunks of the Hubble would survive reentry. So, you know, look for it coming soon to a living room near you, possibly.
Oh, now you care about science. Okay, now you care.
Oh, I'm just hoping Taco Bell does that thing again where we all win a free taco if it hits their sign.
I'm sure they will.
You guys remember that?
Yep, I do.
All right, Noah, if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
The most effective thing ever done in the history of astronomy was a goddamn Taco Bell ad.
Well, I, for one, am hubbled. by that knowledge. Whatever. It's question time. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, no, I'm going to go first. When this space telescope re-enters, we should name the atmospheric phenomenon. What should it be called? A, smoke and mirrors. B, the Death Star. Or C, the drop-o-matic Hubble.
All right, I think, honestly, I've got to, because NASA's needed one for so long, I think B, the Death Star, for sure.
That is true. That is true.
All right, Noah, question for you as well. What is NASA hiding? I'm just asking. I don't know. I know you know. You have to tell
Nothing.
us.
It's all public.
You have
Everything
to
they
tell
have
us.
is public.
Nope.
You know that
They let
fucking
you see it in
telescope
public.
could just turn it down for a second and see what happened on 9/11. We shot down that plane over Pennsylvania. They saw that.
But they're afraid to. All right, Noah, what is the best argument in defense of the Hubble project? A, it might find us the planet we can mess up after we're done with this one. B, we've killed just over 1,571 Challengers worth of Afghani civilians since 2007.
Oh, fuck.
C,
Wow.
NASA receives 0.4% of our nation's budget. By contrast, Madge the Pug's health insurance receives 2.4% of this podcast's budget.
I'm going to go with secret answer D. We would have killed more brown people with that money had it not been for the telescope.
Oh. Incorrect.
And the pug.
It's the pug insurance one.
Somehow Eli won. I don't even know how this game works. Good job. I don't know.
Thank you.
Bad job.
Thank you.
Good job.
I will choose.
job.
I'm gonna shake things up a bit. Someone who hasn't done an essay for a while. I'm gonna choose Cecil.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, for Cecil, Heath, Noah, and Eli, I'm Tom. I'm Tom, even if not for those guys, actually. Anyway, thank you for listening to Noah's microscope story or whatever that was. If you haven't had enough of us yet, we do some other stuff, but I'm not telling you what. Head over to citationpod.com and look around. You'll figure it out. Next week, Cecil will learn us all about something, but only if some percentage of you donate money. So be the change you want to see in the world. That's all I'm saying. And be the change that gives us money and helps feed our families by heading over to patreon.com/citationpod. You should also give us a 5-star review everywhere you can, but especially on iTunes and the like. Feel free to rate us on Open Table, but that's not going to do anything. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes. Be sure to check out citationpod.com.
Sir, sorry to barge in, but we've discovered life on Epsilon Prime, real sentient life. This could mean first contact.
I don't know.
So bored.
I don't know about that.
Or else the Chinese will get there first.
$1 million for you.
That's not a real number, sir.
Still,
Nerd.
you can have it.